I still say that. I think he's a nasty, foul piece of...
I can't believe she's doubling down. She could literally have just said, I didn't know who he was beforehand. That's my mistake for not properly scrutinising the people that I was making allyships of convenience with. But no, she's like, yeah, I absolutely would value this sex trafficker over this climate activist. What the... Now, I don't want to go over any of the Greta Thunberg, Andrew Tate drama that we've all already heard about, because we all know it, we've all heard it. I don't need to explain about how the pizza box stuff wasn't real. I don't need to explain about all of the stuff with regards to what Andrew Tate has done on the argument with Greta Thunberg. Everyone's gone over a million YouTube clips of that already, right? But it's a British politics channel, so there's always going to be that little bit extra that I can be able to put on top of that within the context of what my channel mostly talks about. And it's going to go back to friend of the channel, Julia Hartley-Brewer, and her reaction to this issue, right? Just when this was originally going on the original Greta Thunberg tweet, where she quote tweeted him with the getalife.com email address, whatever it was called now, when this kind of like the actual Twitter spat started between the two, Julia Hartley-Brewer tweeted out this. Let me bring it up. I choose Andrew Tate's life every single time over the half-educated, autistic, doom-mongering eco-cultist, and the only car I own is a diesel Tiguan. Where she seems to think that calling someone autistic is somehow an insult, or it means that you should be less inclined to agree with them or believe what they say, whilst also half educated. Like, she's fucking Swedish, right? She's definitely more educated than people in the UK are, but I digress. Clearly she's angry about this stuff. Grudging Gordon with a subscription on YouTube. Welcome to the Justice stream. I hope you're doing well. Good to join in the stream. Like, yeah, just say the R slur, right? Say what you mean with your whole breath, right? It's just when she talks about when people like Julia Hartley-Brewer talk about autogynephiles, whatever. Just call me the T slur, right? Say it with your whole chest. Say what you really, really mean, right? Which is, again, and the massive irony is that she didn't know who Andrew Tate was, right? This is the belief, the action and the patterns of somebody who does not have any proper ideology other than triggering the left and wanting to reinforce their own beliefs, right? I think that Greta Thunberg is bad because I don't like climate policies because they are things that my enemies believe, so I want to disbelieve them, right? And so anyone who attacks them, I will be on their side regardless of what they actually do. And then, oh no, wait a minute, it turns out that this guy's been arrested for being a gigantic misogynist and doing things like, I don't know, sex trafficking women to Romania, the country that he moved to because he thinks he'd be less likely to be prosecuted for sexual assault. Right, this is the person that she is just unwittingly defending, and she did a segment on her latest bit on Talk TV. Yes, we're watching another Talk TV segment. Welcome to the Justice Stream viewers. Welcome. This just what we do now, where had to do a humiliating climb down, given the fact that she was literally supporting this guy like a week ago. And then suddenly she finds out, oh, maybe this guy is the bad man. Oh, whoops! Oh dear, I just offended a sex trafficker. Oh, doy. So we're going to watch her do the humiliating climb down, and it's going to be incredibly funny.
Good morning to you. This is Talk Breakfast with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. 8:46 is the time.
I will not be doing it in double speed, though.
A very happy New Year to everyone, including all the people who've been very angrily tweeting me in the last few days. So I've not been paying much attention. I have a life. Well, it was in that Andrew Tate's life is not quite as good.
I mean, you don't seem to have much of a life, given that your life is just being a shill for the Murdoch Empire, but I digress.
As he was perhaps hoping it would be this year after he was arrested on rape and trafficking charges in Romania and has been detained for 30 days. This was just about 24, 48 hours after he tweeted at Greta Thunberg. He tweeted to her, I have 33 cars. My Bugatti has a wide... I don't even understand the terms turbo. My two Ferrari 812 Competiziones have 6.5-litre engines. This is just the start. Please provide...
It turns out you do not, in fact, gotta hand it to cartoon Johnny Sexman. It's literally there's a drill tweet for fucking everything. It's always a drill tweet. It's always a drill tweet.
Email address so I can send a complete list of my car collection and their respective enormous emissions. And there's a picture of him putting fuel in one of those many cars. Andrew Tate, in case you didn't know, is a well-known, highly followed international influencer who boasts of his misogynistic views and has been, he's been questioned a number of times.
Oh no, but he triggers the left, so that's why you supported him until you realised that he was a sex trafficker. It's like, oh, I can't believe that there was a confluence of these two different things. No, what fucking nightmare, right? Again, this woman who claims there's some existential threat to women because of the existence of trans people and their acceptance within society is the one who was out there unknowingly backing for someone who was engaging in sex trafficking. Like, you could not make this shit up.
Over his treatment of women. Well, Greta Thunberg didn't take lightly to this, or whoever manages her account, because who knows whether it's Greta or not, and retweeted it with, yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smallbeepenergy, an appendage belonging to Andrew Tate, at getalife.com. I made the mistake of retweeting this with the words, I'd choose Andrew Tate's life.
Just honest mistake, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I was drunk. You're off a side, please. It wasn't my fault, I swear.
Every single time over the life of a half-educated, doom-mongering eco-cultist, and the only car I own is a diesel Tiguan. My original draft of this actually included the word autistic.
Oh yeah, fucking hell, I forgot about that shit. She deleted the tweet when she started getting criticism, right? It turns out, right? It turns out that that's just what we'll believe you the first time when you show us your real self, right? Again, just say it with your whole chest. Again, she genuinely believes in this stuff. She genuinely is ableist in that sense, and that she considers being autistic an insult, right? She just does the British thing where she wants to cover up the shit that she says because she doesn't want to she's, at least in this particular instance, doesn't want to get the backlash for upsetting somebody.
Doom-mongering eco-cultist. I then deleted it because I realised, as I explained in a subsequent tweet, that people were taking offence and thinking I was using it as an insult. I wasn't using the term autistic as an insult.
Yeah, I honestly really wasn't. It's why I did it completely in complete isolation as part of a long string of insults that I was making, right? Unless you think that doom-mongering is somehow just some kind of neutral way of describing the politics of Greta Thunberg, right? Or half-educated. Do you think half-educated? That's just a value-neutral way of discussing Greta Thunberg as a person, right? Just the way that calling her autistic might be in some way, in some other kind of nebulous way, to be value-neutral in the way that you are specifically describing. Very weird that you would say that I was deleting it because people took it the wrong way. I wasn't meaning an offensive way. Honestly, it's just people. Triggered leftoids responding badly on the internet.
Greta Thunberg's own Twitter bio said she's autistic. It's the first word. It's a defining characteristic of her campaigning and her interest in eco-issues and the way she sort of operates and interacts with the world. I didn't use it as an insult, didn't intend it as such, realised it was being taken as such and therefore deleted. However, that did not stop tens.
Citation fucking needed.
Of thousands of people, indeed millions of people seeing the tweet, and tens of thousands very angrily questioning me. But let's talk about this with Tom Slater. He's the editor of Spiked Online and joins us.
Literally, I'm sorry that you took it the wrong way. Oh shit, that's one from Spiked Online being interviewed. I'm glad that Julia Hartley-Brewer is publicly endorsing ex-members of the Revolutionary Communist Party. She's the quintessential British Karen. She's so fucking posh as well. It's unreal how posh she is. And again, just fucking just like the entirety of the rest of the British press, just all come out of private school.
Now, good morning to you, Tom.
Morning.
Good morning. Another day, another year, another Twitter spat. I'm always flabbergasted.
And also, I'm loving how she's just kind of ignoring the fact that there was also criticism of her publicly trying to defend a known sex trafficker against a climate activist and saying that the sex trafficker was better. That's how much she hates climate activism. So much so that she will support a literal sex trafficker over climate activists, right? She would rather have the sex traffickers. That's just how it is, right?
By quite how angry people can get at people's words and their ability to take offence at pretty much anything or everything. I mean, I genuinely find that any tweet about Greta Thunberg, even if it was "Hi Greta," would be met with a level of anger. A tweet exchange between the sainted Greta Thunberg still...
I know, it's nothing to do with an overreaction. First of all, you definitely did use autistic as an insult. It is absolute mega cope from you to try and imply in your kind of writhy way, like fucking flapping, saying, oh no, I genuinely just meant it in this other context that no one ever really uses it. I definitely wasn't using it specifically an insult. You're just taking it the wrong way when we clearly knew what was going on. And second of all, just completely ignoring all of the criticism that people were making about you publicly declaring your allegiance against her with a sex trafficker, right? With, like, the outside of what you believe of the kind of ideology that he spreads about women, his openly misogynistic language that he's said online or whatever, and the way he's built his platform, that doesn't change the fact that he literally moved to Romania because he said it'd be harder for him to get prosecuted for sexual assault. She called the United Nations virtue signaling losers to referring her to as a saint. Fucking Greta is so based. She's so good. Like, she's the only person who understands. I mean, she went to, and she said she made the correct decision not to go to COP24 or whatever it was. Or was it COP23? I forget exactly which number it was, and saying, yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense virtue signaling from people who have no actual proper plans to be able to change things, to be able to do it, right? It's just people walking up and saying, look how good we're investing in carbon capture, without understanding the actual utility of the things that they're actually saying they're going to do, right? She's just great. She's excellent. She knows this shit, right? She's very, very smart, for a 19-year-old, especially. I mean, she's smart anyway, but for a 19-year-old, like, way smart. Greta will lead the revolution, I swear to Christ. Yeah, fingers crossed, eh? But she's just, like, Julia Hartley-Brewer is just completely ignoring the fact that loads of people criticised her specifically as well for, they're criticising her for declaring her allegiance to Andrew Tate, who we all knew the shit about him even before he got arrested in Romania. Like, the arrest in Romania is just like the icing on the cake, but we all knew why he went to Romania. He's admitted it as much. She's 20 in 2 days. Well, happy birthday for 2 days, Greta. I hope you have many happy returns. Wasn't she always, like, secretly an anti-capitalist, just kind of hiding her power level?
Treated by many as if she's some sort of messianic child as opposed to a grown adult and political campaigner. And let's face it, someone who is quite clearly a nasty piece of misogynistic work, Andrew Tate,
Oh, that's not what you thought 7 days ago, was it, Julia? No, you saw someone who you perceived to be triggering the lips, so you declared your undying support for them, before completely changing tack whilst bothering us, like, just a modicum of research into them. Because these people don't care, right? And this is exactly, right? This is exactly how J.K. Rowling propagates all of the kind of incredibly hateful shit that she says about trans people, right? The reason why that J.K. Rowling gets to propagate that shit is because people don't ever bother looking into it, right? She will say something that's kind of completely, in the eyes of most people, to be non-controversial, like saying that sex is real. That's the response you get by J.K. Rowling a lot of the time, saying she's not transphobic, she just said that sex was real. That's what Dave Chappelle interpreted her voice as, right? But they don't bother looking into, like, the declaration letter she signed wanting to revoke all trans healthcare, like the actual, proper genocide rhetoric and her allyship with fascists like Matt Walsh, etc., etc. People don't scrutinise this because it's all fucking hearsay, because they see people who they perceive to be on the same side as them, and then they naturally boost them regardless of actually looking into any of the other shit that they say. And it's exactly why Julia Hartley-Brewer was happy to be able to signal boost Andrew Tate without looking into the shit that he says, because she perceived him as being on the same team, so naturally supported them regardless of what other positions that they had, right? In the same way that, like, I wouldn't ally with a fucking Stalinist. Just we're both Marxists doesn't mean that I will ally with them regardless, because Stalinists believe a bunch of fucking heinous shit, right? I will not create allyships of convenience with these people in the same way that people on the right will do. There was someone from the fucking, was it from the IEA or Policy Exchange or some kind of right-wing think tank? There was literally a fucking video of them. Let me see if I can find it in my likes. Literally saying that they were just using gender-critical feminists as a proxy to be able to attack trans people because they couldn't do so from a conservative lens anymore, and they were just deliberately trying to hijack them to be the progressive face of anti-transness, right? Of transphobia. Where's the fucking video? Here it is. Let me play it.
Bad things are, that some of the pushback against kind of this kind of madder transgender stuff, which, by the way, all teenagers are now getting brainwashed with, which is just happening, and I can see it happening now.
It's a good thing this team spawns mentality isn't a wider problem in our political systems.
Was by using gender critical feminists as basically a human shield, because there's no conservatives who will go out there and use the conservative argument against this. We have to use other progressives to fight it. It's a sign of how bad things are.
Well, they just said the fucking quiet part out loud, literally saying we just used people as allies of convenience to be able to create a conservative narrative. This guy looks like he looks like it's a mixture of cosplaying as House and Dominic Raab. Like, he does look like Dominic Raab, doesn't he?
Suppose I really was asking for it, wasn't I?
Well, potentially. I mean, that original exchange between Andrew Tate and Greta Thunberg it's almost like 2022 couldn't end any other way, in a weird sort of way. This is our culture. These are the two figures that it's produced with incredible popularity, a kind of pint-sized prophetess of doom and this sort of misogynistic character act with also some quite serious allegations facing him. I do think kind of Greta probably came out the better of that exchange, but it wasn't particularly hard. And I think there's
100% exactly, Scrippy. Yeah, and that's the problem again, as Jaden was pointing out, with this kind of team sports mentality that people take for these kind of stuff. And that's why I always, you can only agree with people on solutions rather than problems. That's the thing, right? Because leftists and rightists will both agree with you about the problem of corporate hegemony, right? Except the right wing will say that it's the problem with Jews and you should get rid of the Jews, and the leftists like that there's dismantle capitalism, right?
There's no it's just one of those things where this is the kind of nature of the online culture where it's very kind of fetid, it's very taking sides, it's very much kind of rallying behind figures even if they are quite imperfect in their own ways, or in Andrew Tate's ways, actually genuinely.
This is such a nonsensical analysis of what was going on here, especially considering what Greta Thunberg is doing is taking scientific evidence and then using that to be able to point to specific policy prescriptions about what can change moving forwards to try and avert climate breakdown. And Andrew Tate is going, oh, well, considering that it pisses you off so much, I'm going to go fill up my car a bunch of times, like a top G. Like, this is nonsense. It's a nonsense comparison. Like, on one hand, we have somebody who wants to ensure that the planet doesn't want to die, and then on the other hand, we have somebody who will happily accelerate the death of the planet as long as it pisses off the people that they enjoy pissing off for no reason other than it pisses them off. Like, this is textbook spiked online shit, to be honest. Let's be real. She came up better from that exchange, given that she's not going to jail. I'd say that, yeah, she did well, true.
Quite malign and a bit of a low life. I think where your particular tweet was concerned, Julia, when I first saw it, I thought, I want to tweeted that. I think it was quite easy for that tweet to have been misconstrued. But the thing is, people make missteps. People botch a tweet. People say something in a way that they wouldn't necessarily have meant it to be interpreted. I think the problem is there's just always the nature of Twitter is that there's always this willingness to read it in the worst possible way, and then to rather than just criticise someone or say...
It's not like Julia Hartley-Brewer has ever had a history of saying shit like that about, people, neurodivergent people. It's not like that's literally something that you absolutely would say regardless. And it's not like as I mentioned before, about the context being relevant as well, right? Like, it was within a list, a bullet pointed or common list that she'd made of loads of things that she was saying as being negative character traits. And not at the end or at the start, right? As if it could be somehow separate. It was in the middle of this list, right? I'm sorry. You don't just tweet stuff like that about autistic people on accident. Like, you just don't. You don't do that accidentally. Like, it's just, again, this is just a massive cope from all of this. Is he just saying that she did a fucky wacky but nicely? I mean, basically, that's what he's saying. It's literally an identical moment to when people talked about J.K. Rowling having a senior moment by liking the transphobic tweet, right? That's it. It's identical. It's just like, whoops, didn't mean to do that thing, which is entirely in line with my ideology, but slightly more extreme. Sorry. Well, I guess we'll just forget about that until, 6 months down the line, suddenly they're embracing that position with open arms.
Why have you said this etc. It always has to go to the extra step of rage, get them sacked, etc.
And I want abuse. Oh, yes. I mean, lots of tweets saying I should be sacked, but also abuse. What I love is people saying, you're taking the side of your hero, Andrew Tate. A man I don't think I'd ever tweeted about, ever spoken about on air. Of course, I've heard of him. I didn't know the full horrors of the things that he was...
And there you go. And that is the admission that she's an idiot. It's the admission that I'd never heard about him, I didn't know who he was, but he was the enemy of my enemy, so I treated him like my friend. And that there you go. It's just shown that she's an idiot, right? Like she's not only a nasty piece of work. She's also stupid, right? And that's the level of journalism that we get, that we come to expect from the UK these days.
Because I don't take any he's just a malign sort of influencer figure. I mean, I don't have any interest in Kim Kardashian either. And he's a nasty piece of work. Do I think women should go anywhere near him? No, I think he's horrible. I don't have any interest in him though. But I thought Greta's response to him was really tacky. And I thought rather.
Send it me in whispers 255.
Beneath her, and again, what's funny is I was told, why did you say autistic? And I said, well, actually, no, I've deleted that because I realised it was being taken, and I genuinely did not mean it. I don't think saying someone's autistic. If you're saying someone who's not autistic is autistic and using it as an insult, then that is being derogatory and offensive.
I don't think the context. Oh, Happy New Year, North Countrymen. Lovely to see you in chat. Always appreciate your contributions. Thank you very much for joining today. Happy New Year to you too. But I don't think that the contextually, whether you're using autistic as a slur against someone who is neurodivergent or not, I don't think that context changes whether or not it's insulting, right? I don't think that changes any of it. Like, why would that context make it any different? Can someone explain this to me? Am I just thick? Like, I'm not understanding why one of these things would be insulting and one of them wouldn't, right? Because it wasn't, again, you weren't calling her autistic in a vacuum. You were specifically calling her autistic in the middle of a list of loads of other things that you were using as insults and as derogations. Like, she obviously used it as a pejorative. Yeah, exactly. It was in a list of other pejoratives. Like, the only thing that would make it different is if Julia was autistic too. Exactly. And then it could be construed as being somehow self-deprecating rather than derogatory, right?
She is autistic. She is proudly autistic. She's talked about it being her gift and indeed her superpower. And indeed, it was her mental health problems as well as being autistic as she was later diagnosed.
I like it, 255, like Andrew Tate's car collection.
Which her parents sort of felt that her eco sort of fanaticism and these school strikes and the like was her route out of, she had an eating disorder, she was a selective mute, she had many, many, many issues. I mean, really, really...
True. The only reason why anybody could care about, for example, the death of the fucking planet is if they are just trying to get over some other issues that they have. This is the most insane shit. This is so ridiculous.
Very troubled little girl as she was then. She's now a young woman at the age of 19. And so she uses the word...
I love that, North Countryman. That's excellent. Thank you. I like that. And I think that's definitely a good way of describing a lot of neurodivergent people, right? Especially in a societal context. And I think that's what makes them. I think that's what makes them kind of special in a good way, not in a insulting way that people used to say special. I shouldn't say that. It could come off as derogatory. I'm a little bit on the spectrum myself, but I get not some people who are less likely to conform to a lot of those kind of societal prescriptions. I think that's a beautiful thing in and of itself.
Autistic as the first describer of herself in her blog, proudly. So I mean, genuinely, you've met me. If I had a history of using this as...
Yes, I've met you. I know, literally, this is exactly the kind of thing that you'd say. Saying you've met me is not a way of getting yourself out of this, Julia. We all know exactly what you're like, and this is definitely something that you do. Like, I can't believe you're trying to character witness yourself out of this when it's clearly entirely within your character to do this.
An insult. I mean, it would be all over Twitter. I'd have done it a million times. I don't, because I don't do things like that. But I realised it was, look, it's been taken the wrong way. I can see how it has been, so I deleted it. But then you have people saying, why did you delete it? Even though I flagged up that I deleted this tweet, I wasn't trying to hide it. But But if I hadn't deleted it, everyone would have said, you should delete it. You're in this no-win situation, aren't you?
I mean, to be fair, she is right. She is right in this thing, is that even if you do change your mind on one of these things, right? If you do come out and apologise, people say, oh, you're just trying to save face. And if you don't apologise, people will then castigate you for not apologising for something that was obviously bad. Well, the problem is that I don't think that she has had... I don't think that 7 days or whatever it is... I don't think the 7 days is sufficient enough time for her to properly have any kind of introspection on the kind of things that she says and the attitudes that she has towards autistic people, when it was just so blatantly used in an insulting and pejorative manner, given the context, right? Clearly, the best thing to do in these cases is to just, underneath the original tweet, instead of just dirty deleting, just saying, I said autistic in this manner, just to clarify that's not what I meant, even though it obviously was what she meant. Right? That's probably the way you want to get out there. Don't do the dirty delete. You keep it up there, I guess, to use a cringe Tumblr leftist term, but to use it there for accountability purposes, right? For example, that's probably your best way of being able to get out of that. But the issue is that no one in the world, in their right mind, believes you when you say that it was a mistake. No one does, because it obviously wasn't. I don't have a formal diagnosis, no. When I was in high school, the special needs class was called the Star Group. I remember thinking, we're 15 and not 5. And that's a big issue, is that people will always infantilize the neurodivergent. And I think, in essence, that is why Julia said it, right? The reason why she said it is because she is using it to infantilize Greta. That's why they always make a huge light of her age, despite the fact that she's not really that young. That they will try and infantilize, say, she is autistic, and therefore you can infantilize her, therefore you can use that to discredit the other ideas that she has as being not worthy of your time or effort. And that it's not her fault, you can't castigate her specifically, because that's just the autism talking, right? That you can infantilize someone out of being taken seriously. I mean, there are plenty of people who do make weird sex jokes about her, Gengar Who. That's obviously true, but that's not what Julia Hartley-Brewer does specifically, right? There's definitely two different strands of these people who will either go down the infantilization route or go down the weird sexualization route. I say weird sexualization route, I mean the fucking disgusting rape fantasy shit they have said about her. I mean, her sides definitely do her things at once. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Again, all of these people who are so concerned with the potential groomerism of queer people existing in public are suddenly they don't see anything about the disgusting rape fantasies that people have memed about with regards to Greta Thunberg.
No, it is very quickly become like that. I also think that makes it much more difficult for people to accept when they have made a misstep or when they have said something that has been misconstrued or when they have caused offence without actually intending to. The nature of the culture at the moment is you don't want to even admit any form of fault.
And I also really hate this framing where rightoids will always talk about the idea is that, oh, people found this offensive, right? No one on the left cares about something being offensive or not. We care about what it says about the people making the statement, and B, the overall effect that it has on the wider society. That's the things that we care about. We don't care about bad ideas because they make transphobic shit because they make people feel bad.
That's just
It's because it engenders transphobic ideas within society that make society materially worse for trans people. That's why we oppose it. It's not just us getting offended at the bad words, which is what, ironically, the right will do all the time, right? The right, when they do take offence, they only ever take offence on a superficial level. People found me infantilizing this teenager bad form for some reason. Yeah, exactly.
Going to be taken as the kind of red meat that will continue to fuel the backlash against you.
I would happily apologise and retract. Well, people keep saying to me, since Andrew Tate has actually been detained, I don't know if he's actually been arrested but detained in Romania on these horrific charges of enforced rape and trafficking of women. We don't know whether these. I mean, there's some people claiming this is all a big propaganda thing by him, or whether he's going to be convicted or even properly charged. We don't know right now. There's a lot of haze over this. But I'd choose Andrew Tate's live every single time over Greta's live. See, oh, everyone's going to be really upset with me. I still say that.
I think he's a nasty, foul piece of...
I can't believe she's doubling down. I can't believe she's doubling down. She could literally have just said, I didn't know who he was beforehand. This guy's clearly like a poor influence and a bad person, right? Whatever. That's my mistake for not properly scrutinizing the people that I was making, allyships of convenience with. Fine, whatever, let's move on. But no, she's like, yeah, I absolutely would value this sex trafficker over this climate activist. What the fuck is going on? I was gonna say, oh, she's gonna do a humiliating climb down. She's done the complete opposite. She's done a ridiculous double down. Don't back down. Double down. That was a terrible Scottish accent. Never going to do one again. I can't believe it. I can't believe she's doubling down. Again, every accusation is a fucking confession with these people. Oh, the left have stopped caring about women's rights, right? Because they're supportive of trans people. She's literally out here defending her support for a sex trafficker. I chose cartoon Johnny Sexman over this uppity child, but don't you dare judge me for it. I can't believe it. This is unreal.
The work. I would want nothing to do with this man. I really think he's heinous. I genuinely think that in terms of his enjoyment of his life, even in a Romanian prison, his hedonistic, I would say psychopathic lifestyle, he's probably having a better time than Greta Thunberg is, where she believes the world is about to end. And she genuinely thinks that humankind are a plague upon this planet. I think that even though he's a horrible
But the world is going to end. What the fuck? I didn't even know how to respond to this. What do I say in response? What do I say? This is ridiculous. I mean, I guess that it's literally it. This is like a neoliberal ideology just entirely just exposed here. Literally, it's like, I'm fine with Andrew Tate because I believe that it is good that he is theoretically rationally pursuing his own self-interest, as opposed to Greta Thunberg, who is at least trying to be altruistic, and that's fully what she believes, right? Because this the same kind of right-wing people who will describe leftoids as being do-gooders, as the idea of being a do-gooder is bad because you make everybody else look bad, like you're the fucking the chief inspector in Hot Fuzz. No notes, just GG next, I guess. Yeah, well, exactly. I'd rather be in a Romanian prison than be aware of the evils of humanity. Yeah, exactly. And this is why when right-wing people say that for somehow leftists are the ones who have convenient lies rather than inconvenient truths, when that's just completely the opposite, right? She wants to live in a dream world where everyone can have their gas-guzzling cars forever. We don't need to invest in public transportation, and we don't need to transition away from fossil fuels. And she can have the age of abundance that she had in the 90s or whatever, with endless consumption, without having to worry about the overall societal consequences as such. Because anyone who says this there are societal consequences must therefore be lying because it counteracts her worldview. That's the inconvenient truth, unfortunately, is that people will have to cut down on this shit, right? I'm sorry, and she doesn't want to believe it because it's inconvenient for her. Yeah, Andrew Tate is an acknowledged blight on society, but Greta Thunberg is bringing the vibes down. So I guess we have to hand it to the sex trafficker. Like, what do you even say to that?
Human being, and has probably done some very horrible things and possibly criminal things, it would appear. I would think that I think her life is really miserable, because I think believing this doom-mongering eco-cult, I think is really damaging to young people.
I mean, the only reason why it's damaging is because people like you refuse to see reality, and they refuse to see the facts presented to them in honor of trying to maintain the hegemony of the fucking oil companies that pay their bills, right? It's very difficult to get someone to not stop believing in something when their income depends on them not believing it, right? It's very, very simple. And she's always damaging to young people. Young people would not be being as damaged by the climate emergency if people from your generation took it seriously and bothered electing governments who would actually, try to materially reverse this kind of stuff. There's plenty of cases for climate optimism if there could be any optimism in the face of a generation of, grasping simpletons who cannot be bothered to properly understand the problems that are being faced with the climate crisis. She's old and rich, she'll be fine, she doesn't have to care. And that is the same across huge amounts of her generation. Like, you are the reason why young people are being damaged by this, Julia. Not Greta Thunberg just saying, these are some facts about the climate crisis, and then you getting triggered by them.
I mean, thankfully, we don't have to choose between the two.
Thank God, yes. I mean, I'd rather have neither. I'd rather have neither.
And also, as I understand it, when you made that comment, this was before the full extent of the allegations against him was clear. I mean, these things have been rumbling on for some time, but I think in terms of breaking through to the mainstream, people haven't really necessarily heard about it. In terms of like Andrew Tate and Greta in general, I kind of feel like as individuals, you can't draw a kind of moral equivalence.
No, of course not.
Because of the fact
Who does the fucking sound design on Talk TV? Like, this guy is not only quiet, but he sounds like he's in a fucking gym hall. What the fuck is going on? Like, you have, like, the money being provided to you by the richest media mogul on the planet, and you cannot get audio correctly. I'm a random shitter sitting in a bedroom, and I can get better sound quality right? You sound like he's in the drain pipe that's now been cleared of bees. No more doom-mongering climate science, please. I stand with the massive POS because they're more fun. And that's it. It's vibes-based politics.
fact that one, given the charges stacked against him, also given what he's just publicly admitted to, even if it's not criminal, it isn't behaviour of a lowlife. But if you talk about their kind of impact on the world in terms of their impact on politics and whatever, there is an awful lot made about how Andrew Tate is brainwashing young men everywhere. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some very bored and lost young men who are being malignly influenced by him. But he doesn't have the years of government. He doesn't have the ear of anyone in power. The issue with Greta Thunberg is she does kind of reflect back kind of...
Yeah, it's almost like someone who has, I don't know, empiricism and science and studies and all of this stuff, like agreed upon climate science, is someone who is more... it's more justified in being somebody who might be listened to, not in any seriousness, because, like, which state is actually seriously implementing the policies that Greta Thunberg wants to see outside of any of the fucking Nordic countries, right? Like, no government is actually properly taking into account what Greta Thunberg says. They're using her as a puppet to try and advance their own, like, pseudo, like, capitalist green credentials without actually properly revolutionizing our own energy, our own energy usage, right? And that's why she has come out and said she didn't want to go to COP. She criticized the UN, and she was like, because no one takes me seriously, and they're using me to virtue signal with. She's already admitted that the governments don't care about her, and even then, is that the same as being incredibly popular on social media, right? I would say that in the grand scheme of things, one of the things about the kind of decentralization of the internet means that I would probably say that someone like Andrew Tate probably has more actual real world impact than Greta Thunberg, especially since he's saying things that are incredibly, which, as we were talking about previously in the old segment, are something that is going to feed into the existing kind of hegemonic power structure, and Greta Thunberg completely rejects. And why she was never taken seriously, because all of the governments of the world are part of the hegemonic power structure, which is the oil companies at the end of the day. Have you considered that smart people being taken more seriously than cranks is a good thing, actually? Well, yeah, exactly.
Views to them, which are very damaging to people across the world. It's not an issue with her as an individual, as an activist, or whatever, but the culture that has given her views and her view of the world so much prominence is definitely a bad one. So while as individuals, it's quite clear, who is the more malign influence, as kind of in politics and all the rest of it, it's a completely different story.
Absolutely. Tom Slater, editor of Sparked Online, thank you very much for joining us. Quick word to Sam Armstrong, who's looking at me in horror right now. No one is saying, comparing morally the character of these people, he is an absolute scumbag. She is not, even anything at all. She's a campaigner, a political campaigner. But why do people get so angry at someone expressing an opinion?
No, I would rather this world...
Because you insulted her for being autistic and declared your allegiance to a sex criminal. How is this complicated, Julia?
I've heard an awful lot...
And then doubled down on your allegiance to a sex criminal.
from both of them this year. I do think it's a damning indictment on our global media industry that both of these people exist. The climate, serious issue. The plight of disengaged young people, serious issue. But the fact that these two reprobates, in my view, have climbed up the ladder. She's not a serious voice. She's a negative influence. The fact they've climbed.
They can't even properly voice their opposition to Greta Thunberg. They can't even properly say what they dislike about her. All they can say is just, well, I think that she's a bad influence because she has the wrong attitude. It's vibes. It's all just fucking vibes. Let me have a look at the meme you just sent me. Next person GB News will interview on climate change. Well, exactly. 100%. That's just it, isn't it? They literally cannot articulate the disagreements that they have with her. Because this person says, oh, the climate crisis is a serious issue, but she has the bad vibes.
Up is a damning indictment on the alternative voices that are out there to those people.
Sam Armstrong, thank you very much. This is Talk Breakfast.
Oh, at least the guy who was there actually disagreed with her and said that it's at least a damning indictment about Andrew Tate. That he's the voice like on the other side, and like, but Julia doesn't care because she happily said that she preferred him already. Like she's doubled down on that shit, right? Even her own producer, or the other guy who was sitting next to her, it was a producer I don't even know. She said something about that being similar to being a producer. Even he is telling her that she's a clown. This is what you say when conservatism isn't a real ideology. It's just post hoc justifications for everything you believe. Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, so there was no humiliating climb down, although I will still use the same thumbnail that I've used, which is Britney Spears' "Oops, I Did It Again," but with Julia Hartley-Brewer's face, and it's changed to "Oops, I Defended a Sex Trafficker," which I think is a lot. I think it's going to be a good clickbaity thumbnail. Speaking of clickbait, if you like this, please like, comment, subscribe, feed the algorithm, become a member for 99p on YouTube if you want. You don't have to, but please do interact with the video for algorithmic reasons. If you don't mind, that'd be great.